Hi, it's Janine Sarna-Jones here from Organize Me, and it's been a while since I've done an interview, but I have, as you well know, been interviewing people who are on my list of favorite people, and one of them happens to be Mike B, who is an insurance broker. He actually is my insurance broker. So, and he's done a lot of great work for a lot of people. So I want to introduce you. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And so I can share you with all the people that I know in my network.
Oh God, Janine, thank you so much. You're too kind, really. Thank you. Yeah, hi. I'm Mike. I'm the owner of Miles Square Insurance. We're a full service independent insurance agency. We're located in Hoboken, but we service the tri-state area and a bunch of other states. Um, I spent a good part of my career working for big insurance companies. And about 10 years ago, I decided to hang out my own shingle. And instead of helping big companies figure out the best way to cover themselves, help the people that most need it, which are individuals like you and small businesses and folks that are buying a home or moving into a new home or have questions about homeowners insurance. I know a lot about insurance, and it's definitely its own language. And myself and my staff, I have a great staff, can help interpret that for people and protect your most important, most valuable investment. So that's it in a nutshell.
Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you are going through the process of helping somebody identify the best insurance policy for themselves, what are the steps that you have to do in order to make the best recommendation?
Great question. So I know there's a lot of TV commercials, a lot of ads, and they say, just give us 15 minutes and we'll figure out the cheapest way to do something. And that might work in some instances, but if we only spent 15 minutes with a new client, we'd be doing them a terrible disservice because there's a bunch of things we need to ask you to make sure that we don't miss something and that we're properly covering you. And maybe you have a need that you don't even know about. So the most important thing we can do is chat, find out as much about you, your lifestyle, and of course the property that you need to insure, so that we can come up with meaningful recommendations. So
Mhm.
in a nutshell, just figure out really what it is you need first, and then figure out, well, okay, what's the most sensible, most economical way to meet your needs.
So and you have a whole host of different insurance companies that you you know a lot about that you can then share with your client.
Sure. Yeah. So there's basically two kinds of insurance agencies. So there's a captive agency. So if you go to an Allstate or a State Farm agency, that might work for you, but all they're going to offer you are products from that one company. And that contrasts with Miles Square Insurance because we're an independent agency, which means we deal with dozens of companies. We deal with companies like Chubb and Travelers and MetLife and companies you've heard of, and then a lot of smaller companies that rely on agents for distribution that might fit your need instead.
Okay.
So we're not beholden to any one of those companies. We're going to check. I mean, we have a pretty good view on the market and what their appetites are and who's going to do what well, but we always check everything to make sure that you're getting the best coverage and the best price at the end of the day. In other words, we'll do the shopping for you. It doesn't cost you anything more. If we find something that works for you, whatever, the company will give us 10 to 15% of that premium as a commission. And so you can think of us as kind of a shopping service. We'll save you a lot of time and grief and make sure you're getting the best deal.
That's awesome. Well, I know how important it is to have homeowners insurance just from the clients that I've worked with who've had disasters happen. And we've gone in and tried to help them either get out or salvage whatever could be salvaged and move it to usually a temporary apartment. But it seems like lately there's just been one disaster after another that can take years to get out of. Um, like last year, we had our friend Stacy have a flood, and my team and I went in and tried to get the stuff out that really mattered to them, either to their temporary apartment or to storage. And then everything else had to be just junked, which was really impressive. And just yesterday, there was another flood in an apartment that we're working on, getting it ready for sale. So that it's just the worst, most awful thing to see people, because they get so stressed out about the experience. And I feel like with Stacy, I'd never seen her so stressed in my life, and she's one of the most laid back, relaxed, lovely people. And it was so hard to have her feel so out of her depth on this. But if something were to happen, if someone has insurance with you, are you the first person that they should call?
No, absolutely not. Definitely try to figure out, you mentioned, two water damage situations or what have you. And, the thing that I'm just still amazed at every day is how much damage water can do. And this, like, the disruption in people's lives. Like, I know Stacy's had to live somewhere else now for the better
Mm.
part of a year because the damage was so extensive. Or it's just mind blowing. And so the number one thing we see that goes wrong in houses, thankfully, isn't fires, but rather water damage. So the first thing you ought to do with water, whatever, is you got to figure out where that water's coming from, and you got to stop it. Okay. So after that, then yeah, give us a call and we'll make sure we get your policy details and the phone number to call and help you sort out. What happens in these situations is that oftentimes, if it's a single family home, then it's fairly straightforward. It's just going to be one insurance company that handles it. But if you're in an urban situation, you potentially could have insurance companies for the association. You have an insurance company perhaps where the water was coming from, and you have, your own insurance company, and it can get rather messy. And so we can help sort out what's going to. Every situation is different, and it resolves differently. But that's it. And the maybe we're the third call because you're going to need, depends on, again, the severity of the situation, you might need a disaster recovery or, a mitigation company. And we can certainly help, recommend. We have a few that we think do a good job, but there's dozens of them. And I'm sure you know several I don't even know. And I guess it's very geographic specific as well. So.
But you do give some guidance through the process of dealing with the insurance companies and all of that stuff.
I think it's kind of similar because you always have a very calm demeanor as well, Janine, as well as Stacey, and you're very good at I think you're good at telling looking somebody in the eye and say, you know what, yeah, this is painful and whatever, but it's going to work out, and it will work out, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of stress and tension and aggravation in the meantime or what have you. So our advice is always going to be to, grab the phone, start taking some pictures, document the situation as best you can, and that will pay dividends, going forward.
That's great. That's what we did. Kelly, who's the project manager on the job yesterday, that's what she did. She kind of had a timeline and documented every single thing that was happening in the apartment as it was happening. So it was a good call on her part to just start taking photos and little videos and things like that.
I'll tell you a funny story. We have these in my own home here in Hoboken. we have little water detectors, and if you don't have this as part of your home security, people, they should really look to incorporate them. They cost roughly $20 each. And they're like a little white plastic thing about the size. I'm so old, I was going to say about the size of a $50. Okay, a Kennedy $50. But they're about, because they're bigger than a quarter and what have you. But they really look like, you know, the thing that they put in the pizza to keep the pizza top box
Oh
from
yeah.
sticking to the cheese.
Yeah.
So
The
like
little
if that
table
paints a
my daughter
picture,
used to
they're
call
about that big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have them in our house. And it was the night on September 1st, Storm Ida had reconfigured and came across our area. And I'm watching TV, and the next thing you know, we hear, you know, my wife, it's like, you know, the little alarm goes on the thing, water damage, you know, the water heater downstairs. I'm like, oh no, really? The water heater? We get down there, and the water heater's fine, but there's a drain right next to the water heater, and water is like bubbling
Oh
up like a
no.
geyser. And I'm like, Lauren, listen to me. This is going to sound crazy. We got a lot. You have your phone. Start the video. I want you to document this or whatever. I'll try to fill you in later and try, you know, what have you. And she did, and she knows I was, you know, that was serious, Mike, and I wasn't joking around and what have you. And the reason being is because depending on how the water damages the property, that might depend on which coverage in a homeowner's policy would respond to that.
Oh, okay.
Because if it's coming up out of the drains, it's a very specific coverage as opposed to like a pipe, you know, bursting in a wall or something like that. So the video, I mean, they're great tools to you know, help you figure out exactly. It definitely helps the insurance companies sort it out.
Oh, okay. That's good advice then. I would say get out your camera and start taping right away.
Or, you know, and just a side thing, you know, and this is something because, and I know we've spoken about it before, because you're helping people at their most stressful time, which is moving or what have you. But what we tell them to do, and I hope they listen, is after they have moved in and they're settled or whatever, you should tell everybody, go walk around, make a movie that no one is ever going to see, hopefully. Sit around and say, okay, here's my bedroom, here's what's in my drawers, here's what's in my closet, here are the, you know, what have you. Go around, talk to the thing, hit save, email it to yourself somehow, put it in the cloud somehow, and whatever. And that'll do a couple things. If something bad ever really does happen, it's going to help you remember all the stuff you have, because there's no way you can remember what's in every drawer and every cabinet of your house and what's in there and what, you know, what have you. So that's it, nothing else, because after disaster, the insurance, they're going to say, oh, go make a list of all the stuff you lost. And sure, you're going to get the big items. Okay, the couch, the TV, whatever. But what was in that drawer above the thing? Oh, I don't know. You know, you just can't possibly recall all that. And the second thing is, if an insurance company ever starts doubting the integrity of your claim or the veracity of it, you have a record of it. It's like, yeah, I really did have 10 Hermes scarves in that drawer. Here's you know, what have you. And yeah, they cost a lot of money, and that's, you know, or whatever it is. And that's the end of it. So it'd be really useful. It doesn't cost anything. It's, you have this, you're paying for it or whatever. And it really like could give you peace of mind. So,
That's one of the services we provide is doing home inventories.
oh, right. That's right. My bad. Well, that's even better, because that's a really structured and that's a great, yeah. You all should do that. That will pay. Hopefully, it'll never pay anything, but if it ever comes into play, we'll pay such dividends. No, that's an awesome service, Janine.
Yeah, it's usually, unfortunately, it happens after the fact rather than before, but we do inventories when somebody has stuff that's left over and it's going into storage. So we figured we can do inventories for people before the disaster happens, and hopefully, you know, they have all the information, we can share that with the insurance company, and it makes the claim process go so much more quickly. But
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but maybe, somebody will say, hey, I really should do an inventory before anything horrible happens. So, speaking of horrible things happening,
My
since we're
favorite.
we're like in the time of COVID now, do you feel like your business has been affected or changed at all because of it?
It has, and the good thing is not all for the worse.
Mm.
So, when the world was ending and it was March of 2020, the the ironic thing is I set up a lease for this new office we're in. I did this all in February of 2020.
Oh
So I
my
wanted to make
God.
sure we had enough room to keep. So right away, so I spent the better part of a year, in a rather large space all by myself. Um,
Oh.
but we learned a lot. We learned how we've learned a lot how, in terms of technology and how to serve clients. And what was crazy is we'd never been so busy because
Mm,
pandemic caused a lot of shifts in where people lived.
mm,
And that's a trigger for to reassess or to procure new homeowners insurance. So we were really busy on that end. Um, but it also taught us that, taught me, I thought it was going to be a horrible failure for our business because I like people working together. I believe in collaboration and impromptu and informal communication and what have you. So I was afraid we were going to lose that. And we did lose that. But people developed a sense of independence. In fact, so during pandemic, I hired 2 people to work with us remotely that are permanently remote. One
mm.
lives 80 miles away in upstate New York, and the other lives 80 miles down closer to the Jersey Shore. And they're both two fantastic employees. Um, so what else did we learn during pandemic? Oh boy. Um, what is funny is people were at home and were spending a lot more time and attention on things that they hadn't before. So the
Mm,
calls definitely started and said, I haven't looked at my insurance policy and I want to make sure I have everything straight. And
mhm,
that's great for us because, we want to communicate with our clients, as much as we can and make sure that their insurance is keeping up with their house. We'll have clients that maybe they'll put an addition on a home and not tell us, and that can cause problems. Or maybe Santa was particularly kind to them one Christmas and they have new jewelry and then they don't tell us and then something happens to it, and that's really, that's a problem. And so
mhm.
that extra communication was really good. And then we actually started for the first time having these sort of video calls with some of our clients, and that was something that we really hadn't done before. So I'll
Oh,
look on the
that's
bright
great.
side of it all and tell you that, you know, but it was also sad to see some clients, leave to go some far-flung places, and I guess it
Mm,
was exciting for them. But so there was a challenge, and of course, like every business owner, it's March of 2020. I signed this big lease, increased our expenses a lot, and what have you. And it's like, well, what's this all going to mean? I don't, what are we going to survive? We're going to survive this as a business. What's going to
mhm.
happen? All that uncertainty and doubt was really stressful.
I bet. I truly, I know how stressful it can be. Just not know what's coming next. Yeah. Well, do you have any words of advice for the people out there about when they're in the process of looking for insurance?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you should absolutely engage an independent agent
Mm,
because I'm not going to, like myself. And there's lots of really great independent agents. I mean, as you know, but the key is that they're not um, beholden to any one company. So They're not going to try to make it fit and what have you. And if, there's another company that has a better product that'll be cheaper for you or cover you better or both or what have you, you're not going to hear about it unless you go to an independent agent. So that's number one. Number two is go work with people. Yeah, this is something I've learned in pandemic. Work with people you like. Like you don't have to. You have a choice there, and you might not be the best fit personality or what have you, and so you have choices. So work with an agent that you jive with and that you feel a connection with, because that will pay dividends down the line also. Like when a client calls us and maybe I haven't spoken to them in a year, but it's always kind of fun to see what's going on in their lives and new additions to the family and what have you. But you don't have to, you're working with somebody that knows something about you and maybe remembers when you bought that home and or what have you, and that connection is really meaningful. And it's nice to call somewhere and they know your story. It's like going to the restaurant and they know your preferences and what have you. So that would be my advice, because you can go online and get insurance, but no one's going to be there to explain to you and help you explain what all those things mean, so you can decide whether or not you need that coverage or you can go short. I mean, you don't need that coverage or what have you. Also, if you work with an independent agent, you can call an 800 number and they might do a fine job, or they might not know anything about your particular area, but you'll never talk to the same person again. So that's my advice.
Okay. Well,
in spite of all the predictions, independent agents have prospered and persevered, and all our studies and our business results show that our clients like it that way. So thank goodness that disintermediation is not occurring at this level. So
yeah. Well, luckily for me, I like you, Mike. And I appreciate your team. They are very good and are very knowledgeable, which is really always great. And I definitely 100% recommend you every chance I get.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. We're not perfect. We really aren't. We try hard and we make mistakes. We're not.
Perfection is not required. But,
But we try, and we really care about our clients, and we want them to get what suits them well. And the getting referrals from folks like you is so meaningful to us as a small business. So gosh, we appreciate it.
Well, I'm so glad that you are on the other side of 2020 to 2022, and that you actually prospered during that time. And hopefully we'll have an end to this at some point. Hopefully, we can only hope that it becomes endemic, and you can have your office filled up with people because you're so busy with work.
We're half full. We're getting there, but yeah, thank you so much.
And in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely summer. Enjoy every single bit of it. And I guess I will see you. And will I see you on Thursday?
You will see me on Thursday, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Look forward to giving you a real hug, but I'll be wearing a mask. I'll be the one with the mask on. So have a great
I have
day.
one or two laying around here somewhere. There should be, yeah, but okay. All good, whatever. I'm just glad to see you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
This is fabulous. Thanks so much for putting this together.